What is happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. I'm Mike Spider Slayer, and next to me we have Cat Comic Uno.
Hello.
Today we will not have Brant Fowler. He had a lot of stuff to do, so he didn't think he was going to get enough sleep. So we want to make sure that we're awake when we come to these shows, right? So
We try.
so we were happy to have a show once again. I know we weren't here for 2 weeks in a row. Certain things that were going on, instances you were away at cons. Brent had a chipped tooth last week. Like there was some stuff going on, and so we just decided to hold out on the 2 weeks. But we definitely wanted to make sure we were on today because we have a lot of comic book news to discuss because it has to deal with New York Comic Con. So we're definitely going to talk about that stuff. But what we're going to do today is that we're going to talk about not all of the comics that were originally on the docks. It's
Because of that busy week we had. I just had finished my comics and I kind of like read through them quickly. I know you didn't get to finish your comics. Brant didn't finish his comics. So we're like, let's just kind of do a shortened version of that.
Yeah, and I always read my comics, but this weekend was just impossible being that, if you guys didn't know, I went to the Taylor Swift concert this past weekend, and it was just a very busy weekend, and I didn't get back till I think it was last night till like around 7:30. So I had a tennis tournament to run on Saturday. I went to Miami, and then we had all that. So yeah, it was just busy stuff. So it was definitely challenging to read. I did read some stuff when I was in a hotel, but I didn't bring my comics with me. I read them on a tablet, and it was just like, it's always hard to read digital stuff, man. So
I wouldn't even be on this show if I didn't take the day off yesterday. That's the only way I was able to read my books, is that the day after, and you could hear my voice. I was at New York Comic Con. I did 2 tables at New York Comic Con. I'm dead. But I took a day off yesterday, so I was like, oh, I'll read my comics. That's the only way I was able to finish them.
Right? Yeah, absolutely, totally. How was it though? For your,
it was really good. Yeah, no, it was really good. It was cool to do 2 tables because we've done Artist Alley before. And we just like, it was. I won't expand on everything that happened, but like some career stuff that was cool that happened, and just like people that you talk to. It's like, wow, you're kind of talking to these people as like a peer. I think that's really cool. And that ended up happening. And then, got some maybe cool variant covers in the works too for our books. Kickstarter stuff is always cool with doing the cons. You get to hang out with people who do Kickstarter, and I love people that do Kickstarter, so that was really fun. And then the selling aspect of it all, you get to meet people that like have read your books before, haven't read your books before, and you make new fans. And it's just very long. It's that Wednesday we got in, and I don't live in the city. I live like maybe an hour and a half away. So we going in and out of the city each time. Like I live close enough that we are going in and out, but I also don't live close enough where it's like it's 10 seconds. So that Wednesday, it took us like 5 hours to set up. And then you're from like 10 to 7. You get home at 10, you go to sleep, and you wake up. And then it was just hard on the body. But I had such a good time, and it was so rewarding. And I love the show. I always say I wish I could have like somebody transport into my body so I get to like experience it all, but I don't have to feel it all. Yeah, and it's cool to kind of be on that side, because back in the day when I did New York Comic Con, I used to just be the press. So now I don't even like get to see the panels anymore, because I'm just like working, and I try to say hi to as many people as possible. The only thing I got to do, I have a friend who works at Ghost Machine, so I actually got like in the signing for Hyde Street. I got like the full book signed, so that was pretty cool.
Oh, sweet. That's really cool.
So I did that. Yeah, no, it was really fun. Every year you're doing something new, and it was cool to catch up with the news, because there are some people who like talk about Vertigo a day before. I'm like, what's happening? And then I checked it on it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Supposedly YouTube's being broken. I can't comment in the live chat. I see it, Tevia. So
yeah,
I see your comments.
You're good. You're definitely good. And then we got a question over here already. It says, quick question: does Absolute Wonder Woman come out today or tomorrow? Some people have said they're getting them early tomorrow.
I think it's tomorrow, because the DC is officially Wednesday again.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you're if you see people getting them early, they're not supposed to get them early, or if they do get them early, they're not supposed to show them. But a lot of times you see comic shops that actually have them and they kind of like showcase them. You know what I'm saying? But technically, if you're just a regular like consumer or buyer of comic books, like if you do get these, you should not show them online. So because the comic shops could get in trouble, especially if you say who you sold them, you know?
Yeah.
So just be aware of
Yeah, try not to do that. But we will talk about Absolute Batman and DC All In. We're probably gonna wait until the news section because there is a news piece about Absolute Batman, so we'll talk about it there. And I'm sure DC All In we'll just talk about it as a whole at that point. Did you hear Zeb Wells is working with Rick Remender and Giant Generator? We did. I don't think we marked it off just because I don't think there's much to say about it. But there was also a comment about the Spider-Man panel at New York Comic Con. I didn't see it, so I don't have a huge opinion because I wasn't there, but I did hear about it. And
I read a little bit about it. You know what I'm saying? There was like this back and forth between somebody and stuff like that. But it is what it is at this point. But yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk. It's not gonna be as long as a comic section just because there's a lot of news to talk about and we didn't read all the comics. So we're gonna dive into the comics first. So I'll start with you to kick things off. What is the comic that you want to talk about first?
Yeah, there's going to be 3 comics that we're just going to chat about, and then we're going to go into our top 5. So I think first we'll talk about the werewolf book, so Batman Full Moon. I was actually pretty disappointed with this one. I didn't really love the art. I love horror stories, but I just couldn't get into this. I didn't like it as much. How about you?
I actually didn't mind the story. I did think the artwork was not something that I anticipated. Like I wanted something, if you're going to have a horror book, I want something to have a lot more detail, and especially like werewolves and blood and just all that stuff. And I think like I like the story. I'm intrigued on where it's going to go. I think when I rated it a B. When I talked about it. But yeah, character designs were a little bit off and whatnot. So, but it was all right. My biggest thing though was like Batman gets into this big fight with this werewolf. He gets like practically killed, and then literally it just.
Oh, Mike, pause for a second. Maybe I paused, but I think it's Mike. You tell me if I paused or Mike paused, but I'm pretty sure it's Mike. Yeah, it's Mike that paused on that side. Oh, he's good now. You paused for a second, but you're good.
Okay. That was weird. Anyway, but yeah, so this was like this was a weird thing to me. You know what I'm saying? Like he's fighting and then he's all practically dead, and then he's like comes back and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go fight the next day." I think my prediction is he's going to change into a werewolf. I could be wrong, but usually that's what happens, right? You get bit or something happens from a werewolf, you become one. So that's the way I'm looking at it.
Did it give you enough that you wanted to read more? Because for me, I was like, there's enough titles out there. I don't know if I need more.
I'll check it out. I mean, the type of artwork that I got from it was an Andrea Sorrentino style of artwork.
Okay. Yeah, which I'm not a huge fan of.
So, but we'll see what happens.
All right, so next up, we are going to talk about, let's do Batman and Robin, year 1. I like this, but it kind of goes back to our pull lists are getting so heavy. What does this offer? I've seen this story a billion times. I've seen them work together, and I don't know if there's anything here besides, like, look, it's good art. Like, it's Mark Waid and Chris Samney working together again, but when I got to the end of the book, I'm like, well, what is this offering me? And that was kind of my biggest problem. I just don't know if it was enough of a hook to be like, I need to get that issue too.
So like, I liked it too. Like, I love the interaction between Batman and Robin. I loved them, meeting up and doing the first adventures together, and how Dick Grayson is all excited about it. And it just, Batman kind of being like that, almost that father figure for the first time, and he almost doesn't know how to handle it. So in that aspect of the story, like I really enjoyed it, right? But kind of the ending with the bad guy that's going to be in play here. I was kind of like, I'm not too sure where they're going with that part of it. And that's what kind of took it down a little bit for me. But same thing, I'll probably check this one out a little bit more before I decide, hey, if I'm going to continue or not. But I do love the artwork in there. I think it's really well done. And again, Mark Waid's a good writer, so I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, this is going to be, a crappy read. So I don't know. We'll give it a solid try, and then I'll make a decision as time goes along here.
I'm curious to see how many issues come out the week it comes out, because that's kind of going to give my determinant if I'll get issue 2 or not. But
well, that makes sense.
No, it wasn't bad. It's just like, again, we're getting to a point where I think tomorrow I'm getting like 20 books. So I'm like,
yeah,
I can't read 20 books in a day. So it just ends up being
right there with you too.
Yeah.
And there's some that like I'm really thinking like, do I buy these books? Do I not buy them books? So I haven't even made a decision if I'm going to buy all those books or not. Like I'm at like 20 or 21 right now. And I kind of don't want to continue to like go past that threshold. Like I feel like 20 is like more than enough. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a lot to read in 1 week and make videos and do a live show, so it becomes a challenge,
Yeah, 100%. And for me, I read them all in 1 day. So it's just like, I don't want to read. I think a sweet spot is like 13 for me. Like I like a good 13 books.
The way my schedule is, it's the way I do my videos. So it's like, Worthy Ones is based off of the new #1. So that might knock out 6 or 7 books, and then I'll have, and then I'll do like, then after the poll. So, which is not done till Monday. And so that gives me the rest of the time to read those books. So, and I try to like read about so many of those books until I get to a point on Sunday where on Sunday I'm like, all right, I would like to have about 8 books left to read on Sunday. And then if I'm at that number, then I'll be able to finish and read all those books. So then I can record the video.
No, it makes sense for sure. So that's a little sneak peek of how we read our books. But the last one we're going to talk about before we get into our top 5 is Nightwing. So these are books that just didn't end up in our top 5. We definitely normally do not discuss our top 5s, but because we had such limited books and space to talk this week, we did end up saying what our top 5s were. But yeah, Nightwing did not make our top 5s. But I always say this: if you've been enjoying Tom Taylor's run on Nightwing, you'll continue to like this. I liked everything around Heartless. Like, I don't like Heartless himself. I enjoyed everything around that. And I really enjoyed the ending of this book. Like, I like seeing his sister. I enjoyed seeing Barbara. But the Heartless stuff just did not interest me. So this is kind of middle of the road book because of it. But then the artwork is really, really good. I think it was a good ending to this run that I think had a lot of shining moments. But the plot kind of wasn't as existent as I wanted it to be. And I kind of wish it just focused on the characters at certain points where it's just like, I just want to see Barbara and Nightwing hang out because that's more fun than even trying to add this Heartless stuff.
I mean, listen, the way this story ended could have very well been a story arc, and it was just, all it was, he had Blockbuster's heart and it gave out on him. And that's basically how it ends, right? When it comes to Heartless himself, he literally dies. And it's kind of like, man, oh man, like you saw the writing on the wall from the very first page of the issue, when he was talking to the guy that takes care of him, his Alfred. And he just sits there and says, oh, you don't know when this heart could, go on you. It's lasted longer than the others. So right away, that he's going to die in this issue based off of that situation, right? And so just the moments at the end were really good. I was a little upset that they shot the dog. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, but I think the dog's okay.
Luckily they showed it because I was waiting to see if Haley was all right, because I thought when he picked up the dog, or when he said, okay, good dog, it's time to rest now, I literally thought that the dog was dead. And I'm like, dang, hopefully not, Tom Taylor, that you're relying on shooting an animal to get a shock value. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
that wasn't the case. The dog was okay, which was good. But I was worried there. And, again, it was fine for what it was. But this is something that could have been easily 6 issues. It really did not have to drag out this long. And I wish there would have been more character growth in all the other supporting cast characters, right?
Yeah. I rather that. I think I rather those character moments than what we got. But yeah. Yeah, so those are the big books that I wanted to talk about. So I think we're just gonna jump into top 5. So let me know who wants to start, Mike.
I am still trying to get in the order. I'm just gonna go with a generic order here. Nothing there's one
crazy.
for sure. Okay. So let's do this. I'm gonna talk about Uncanny X-Men issue 4. So
that was close for me, my top 5. It's a good book.
So I liked this issue just because it was an origin story of this Sarah character.
And she was interesting. She was a cool character. I liked her.
Right. And obviously she was involved with Professor Xavier. And she just had a kid, right? And it was like she was left to take care of this kid, and somehow she developed this mutant power of being able to, I don't know, it sounds weird. It's like she's able to absorb power from like life all around her, like trees and animals and all kinds of weird shit like that. And you just get to see this crazy battle between her and Rogue. And I thought the fight in itself was just really interesting. I know like the kids are trying to interact and be part of this team, and you wind up getting to see Wolverine kind of get, brought back to the farm or whatever they are. And he's trying to heal up and all those different things. But the artwork here by David Marquez is just amazing. I think it's beautiful artwork. And it did leave to be an interesting issue to see, okay, where are we going to go with this? I mean, I honestly think, in my opinion, this is, when you look at a team of X-Men, I think this is the best book out there.
Yeah, 100%. I like Exceptional X-Men, obviously, as like the solo series with Kitty, but this is everything I want an X-Men to be. I think it really gets the soap opera aspect. It's not too many characters to handle. It's just Gail Simone at her best, and obviously Dave Marquez at his best. So yeah, I liked it. Again, it just missed my top, but it's more because I want to learn more about the woman, and I think we're gonna get more of those revelations in the next issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, so that was your number 5.
Yeah, so what's yours?
Mine is Titans. So it's a new arc for the series. It's a new creative team. It's John Layman. Who did yeah. And I liked it. What I liked about it is the new status quo of a lot of these characters, where we get to see Donna's the leader now. Nightwing is like kind of taking a step back. Wally's not on the team at all. Like, I liked Roy's interaction. I think my only negative was that I don't love the art style. There's some awkward like positions that the characters are in, but I like the story. I think it really is a great all-in jumping on point.
I agree. I really like this comic book too. I mean, it was pretty much in my top 5 for most of the part until I came across looking at the books, and I'm like, this one's just gonna miss it. I like John Layman as a writer. I don't think he's written a lot of mainstream comic books as of late, but he was the writer of that book Chew. And yes, I really love that story that he wrote. So I think he's a great writer. I think there is definitely strong potential in this comic. I just like, who was the threat? What was the enemy at the end? Oh, was it the Clock King? Was that who it is?
I think it was Clock King, yeah.
Yeah, messing with their, like,
which I thought was cool. I thought that was interesting. Where like PTSD.
That. Yeah. So it was kind of weird because it's like Dick Grayson just sits there and says, "Hey, Donna, you're going to be the leader now." And then right when this situation happened, he's like passing the buck. He's like, "So what do you think we got to do, Donna?" I was like, dude, you're no longer leader of the Titans, and you're just like dropping the ball on her, I thought it was funny, but I think it was a good jumping on point for readers to get everyone to understand what's going on and the little flip flops, like how you no longer have Wally West on the team, but you now have Arsenal on the team, which I thought was kind of cool. And and you get a switch of leadership changes. So it definitely shakes up the status quo of the team. I think John Layman can do a pretty good job. I really do. Once things get going here. The artwork is not as strong. It seemed like real thin lined, right? It seemed that way to me. But overall, I thought it was fine. It was definitely a fun story.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to read more. Again, I think it was just some awkward facial expressions, but I don't hate the art. I think the coloring is actually pretty solid for it.
Yeah, cool. All right, so let's go on to your number 4.
Mine is Powerpuff Girls issue 4. We get to see the girls try to enter a baking contest with Princess. There's some cheating that goes along the way, but it's kind of a fun story, and I like the cliffhanger in the end that Mojo Jojo wins this cupcake contest, and I was like, oh, that's fun. He wasn't the villain this time. It's one of the few of these all ages books that I feel like I'll continue to read. I don't think it's as strong as when Kelly Thompson was writing it. They have like different creative teams joining.
Okay.
But I actually want to see Powerpuff Girls and where it goes. Like Lilo and Stitch, I dropped because I'm like, oh, do I care where that goes? And a lot of the other ones just kind of seem one off. But we haven't seen the Powerpuff Girls in a while, and I think it embraces what it used to be in a modern lens. So I had fun with it. It's a good palate cleanser type book.
I think is it going to be like new creative team every time, or they're rotating them like with the same ones? Do you know?
It might be rotating. I know the artist is the writer for this. So the artist who did that first arc is the writer for this one.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right. Awesome. My number 4 is actually Green Lantern issue 16. So this was a pretty solid read for me, as well as we get to see Carol play a significant role in this book as they're escaping the bad guy from here. Theros, I think his name is, or whatever happened. And she had to power this ship. And I loved how Jordan's belief in her being that you are in charge of Ferris Air. You know how to do this. So do the thing that you know how to do. And she uses her power to power the ship and to escape out of the danger. We also get to see like the planet Mogo winds up, becoming in this Red Lantern, and it causes all this craziness. And it was just really well done. The art is really good. And then we wind up getting to see the Star Sapphire's like entity at the end of this issue too, which was quite interesting. So it definitely has me intrigued on where we're going to go in the future with this, but I liked it. And I think if you read the last issue of that special core issue, I think you would have understood it even more. So that was my idea with it there.
Yeah, and I agree. I like how the lanterns are interacting with each other. I really do love Carol, as you know, and I think she had a really interesting role in this issue, like you mentioned. It was good. I agree in the kind of placement of it all, though. It's kind of a build-up issue, so it's not like a huge issue, and I think the artwork has been stronger in this series. But it's a good issue. I liked it, and I love this series. We do have a question from 8 Plus Comics. Do they allow you to sell soda and water at Comic-Con booths? No, because you need a food license for that. So you're not allowed to sell food unless you have a license for that.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's see. We were on is it your number 4, or did you? No, it was Powerpuff, right?
Yeah, so we're on number 3 now.
All right, so you go with number 3,
which is Green Lantern. So we already talked about it.
Okay, gotcha. So my number 3 is actually Def Leppard's Hysteria. This is issue 0.
And this is what company?
This is from Vault.
Interesting.
So this is the book right here.
I haven't heard of this one.
Have you? Yeah, I don't think many people did hear.
I read Godfather of Hell from Vault this week.
I read that too. But for Def, have you heard of the band Def Leppard, Kat?
Yeah. I've heard of them. I don't know much about them, but I
so they were a real popular band in like 80s and 90s. Like really, that was their peak. But overall, they're a solid band. I used to listen to them like all the time. and the actual lead guitarist of this actually co-wrote this comic book, and he is a huge comic book fan. And in the UK, I guess it was hard to get comic books back in the day, and like he likes to collect like the old Silver Age comics, which is really cool. But anyway, this comic is about very much to their roots. It's about about this guitar, I guess, that's cursed somehow, and so whoever possesses this guitar, I guess, will eventually kill them, right? So you wind up seeing this pre-story, this prequel about some story back in 1961 about some person playing this guitar, and then there was this plane that crashed. So obviously someone got this guitar, right? So then it goes to the current day in Chicago, and we wind up getting to see this girl. She leads this punk band. It's a band of 3, and the band's name is called Dark Side, which is kind of cool. And they got into this big like fight on a show that night, and they were on a podcast discussing it, and her guitar broke. So now she's got to go to the storage facility and get her grandfather's guitar. And supposedly it's probably going to be this guitar. And then it's going to go from there. So we'll see what happens with it. But it was a really interesting story, well written. I thought the artwork was pretty solid, and I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, I like how it's called Hysteria, based off of one of their most popular albums that they ever sold. So this definitely surprised me. I probably found out about it probably about a week and a half ago, and I'm like, oh, what the hell is this? So I'm going to definitely check it out.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it met expectations, even though you didn't necessarily knew you were going to have expectations.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, it's a Def Leppard book. Like, what is it going to be about? But it wasn't cheesy at all. I like how it goes to the horror side of things. All right, so let's go on to your number 2.
Yes, before we do that, we actually have a question from Joseph Gore.
Sure.
Hey, Kat and Mike, great to see you both. Missing Brant, though. Is there any particular horror movies you like to watch this time of year? Halloween. I really like rewatching Halloween. I like Final Destination, Scream. I like slashers a lot, so I tend to rewatch those.
Yeah, so this is bad. Me and my daughter have been on this like horror movie like kick as of late, and we have watched so many like different types of horror movies. I couldn't even remember all of them. Like it's just been back to back. But the one that stood out to me that I just most recently watched was Rise of the Evil Dead. And I didn't see that when it came out, and I wanted to see it. So we just most recently watched it, and I'm like, oh my God, this movie has so much gore and blood, and it just nonstop like craziness throughout the whole thing, and just the stuff that is said in it and everything else. Like, it is a creepy ass movie, but we absolutely loved it. I really liked it.
I saw that one without seeing any of the other Evil Dead, so that was interesting. I saw that. I think one of my friends like at a movie night, so I was like, yeah, I'll watch it. And it was gory. It wasn't, again, I don't have much context of the other Evil Dead, so I don't know if I was as attached.
I don't think you do. You don't need to, though. You know what I'm saying?
Not like, unless the ending, I think, is the only part that you're like, oh, you might understand a reference or two, but I agree.
Right. Yeah. But there wasn't, there was a few things that was said that you would have to understand, like the chick having a chainsaw, right? The blood that's all over them. That's all references to the old movies, but still, I thought it was a very entertaining, grotesque movie, you know? So, but I love horror movies. I just absolutely love them. I think the other day, almost 2 weeks ago, there was like a Nightmare on Elm Street marathon, and I watched like number 3, which is like Dream Warriors, then number 2, and then the first one. Yeah.
I do like Dream Warriors. No, I love horror too, so it's a fun time of year, and wanted to see Substance, so I've been a little busy, so I think next week we're gonna try seeing that. I know Venom will count as a horror movie, but we'll see if that's good when that comes out this week. But yeah, going to number 2. So mine's Ultimate Spider-Man issue 10. I really like this issue. Honestly, it was very close to being number 1. But I'll talk about my number 1. I love journalism, as you guys know. It's something I did before as a full-time comic writer. And so it was really cool to kind of have this like all the President's Men style story with Spider-Man and obviously Uncle Ben and J. Jonah. And I like the layers of Harry. I think that's been really interesting that you think he's a full bad guy from last issue, and then this one you're like, maybe he's not, maybe he is. And it's just I really like the conundrum there. So yeah, I like this issue. I do think in the long run, I think Harry is not a bad guy. I think it's Gwen who's a bad guy, and we're gonna learn more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. I think there was just a lot of fun elements in this, and I really like how Hickman is just really getting all the characters involved, all the supporting cast characters. It's just not Peter or MJ. They all seem to have their shining moments in this series, which is great. And then just them going to Gwen and just being able to talk with her and she gets all pissed off. She's like, I want my money back. You know what I'm saying? I just think there was such good moments there. And I think, what is it? Are we getting Black Cat next issue too? I think that's what's going to happen. Issue. Yeah. So overall, I mean, I really like this book too. It's so fun to read. I think I read this one actually twice because there's a lot of stuff that goes on in this one. So overall, it's a lot of fun. This was actually my number 1, so
I expected
get that done. But my number 2 was actually Moon Knight: The Fist of Khonshu issue 1. So if you haven't read Moon Knight at all, I think Jim McKay does a nice job at getting readers into the Moon Knight character. He's really catching you up to all the characters in the book. He's catching you up to what happened for Blood Hunt. So if you have been reading the series all this time, it might be repetitive, but I think I'm giving it a number 2 on my list because it does all that elements correctly. Like that's what you want to continue to have your audience grow for a comic book, right? And the side story here is about this detective trying to get information from another detective, trying to get Moon Knight like out of the picture, right? Because there's this new guy on the streets that is pushing this drug, and I think it's called glitter. And so people get highly addicted to it, and Moon Knight goes to this guy, and he basically threatens him and says, you better quit or you're going to pay the consequences here. So I think it was kind of cool, the overall story and kind of the setup of what's to come here possibly with these two characters. So I think this is it's going to be another fun series here. I think out of all the books that Jed McKay writes right now, I think he has the best handle on Moon Knight. It's not Avengers. It's not X-Men. I truly think that Moon Knight, he's got this book down. So that's the way I think about that one.
Yeah, no, I haven't been reading that one, but from what I hear, Jed McKay, obviously you would just see that he does a little bit better with the B characters than maybe the Avengers that we've been seeing, like you said. Exactly. My number 1's a book that you don't read. It's Wonder Woman, issue 14. In this issue, you actually see the origins of Trinity, her daughter, and Steve Trevor dies. It was kind of a pretty big issue.
Really?
Where he's dead. And the whole issue is about Wonder Woman mourning him. And that's why she creates Trinity, because she gets the sample of his hair and hers and creates her from clay. And that's the whole issue. It's really emotional issue. It's a really good start to a next arc for Wonder Woman. I wouldn't say it's new reader friendly, but because obviously you want that new reader friendly stuff. But
did he die because of absolute power?
No, he died because of those people who had the lasso. They killed him. So they were like, how do you get to her? Kill Steve Trevor.
Well, interesting.
It was a
So
really
yeah,
big
so not
issue.
new reader friendly, even though it's like an all-in issue.
I wouldn't say so because I feel like you need a. I'm not saying it's not like I think maybe you could catch on if you've read comics before, but I think you have to know about those lasso people, and you kind of have to know about their relationship. You need to know Trinity. I guess you need to know Trinity's a character. Like again, is it the worst offender of not new read friendly? No, but
Right.
I respected this story a lot more because I had read the previous issues.
Huh. Interesting.
But it was
Interesting.
good. I know Wonder Woman hasn't been your thing, but I think they're making some moves with this series, and the artwork
Yeah.
was gorgeous.
Artwork's always gorgeous. I can never deny that. I
Mm.
just can't get behind fucking Tom King's writing. I just can't.
No, it's not for everybody. It's
It,
usually not for
it's
me. I'm
not.
surprised.
It's just too dense for me. Like I feel like he just goes into like too much. Like I don't need to know every little thing about every little detail about, you know what I'm saying? It takes me out of the story a lot. And I know like for some people it's fine and for others it's not, you know. It's just like it's the way he writes, and it's just something that's never resonated with me when it comes to his storytelling. It's ever since he was doing Batman, like I just couldn't get behind it. Like even in what was it? The what's it called? The Crisis, the Heroes in Crisis
Yeah.
book. Like I read that and I was like, okay, like it was interesting at first, but then it got so long-winded and everything else. And then he did it again in Batman, and it just keeps going on everything else, you know? So I'm
I
not
think
saying
he
that he doesn't have like good ideas or anything like that. I just think that it's just his writing style is just not for me. That's all it is, you know?
I think he's done a better job at not being as repetitive in this run. And I think that's what I've respected because a lot of people are saying he's really repetitive, and I agree. And I think that's for I like his Jenny Sparks book. I really didn't like that. And I really didn't like his Supergirl book. I know a lot of people do like that story though. But I love his Mr. Miracle. I'm really enjoying this Wonder Woman run. I liked half of the Batman run. Um,
Right.
but yeah, check this one out. But also again, Mike has given it a shot. Like you already know it's not your vibe, but if you haven't given it a
Yeah.
shot, see if this is your vibe because I think this is the best Wonder Woman has been in a really long time, and I'm usually not a fan of Wonder Woman
Yeah.
if I'm being honest. Like I like her as a character, but I tend not to read her solo series.
Yeah. I mean, I've read quite a few issues of this run, and
Yeah,
there
exactly.
has been
You've
issues that
given it a
I've
shot.
yeah, I've even there's even issues that I've enjoyed in this. I'm not gonna lie. Like it just overall, I'll read a good issue, and then it's like 2, 3 issues, and it's just like freaking really, you know what I'm saying? And then I lose interest again, you know. So, but yeah,
Someone asked if we've read his Gotham book, Danger Street or Hard Target. I haven't read any of those. I wasn't interested when they came out. I did read, I think, one issue of Danger Street, and I didn't love that one.
what was Danger Street?
It was with all those obscure characters. And I want to say like Lady Cop was in it. It was like, yeah. I don't know if
Maybe
you read that first issue.
I don't know. I don't know. Okay. So let's do this. Let's just go into our most anticipated, and then we'll dive into
Yeah,
the news,
sure.
and then we're done talking about the books.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
I'll talk.
however
I'll
you
do
want to
this
run it.
since you're
Yeah,
you got that laryngitis going. So
yeah.
I will go into this. So your number 3 this week, Kat, is the Tin Can Society issue 2, and this is Brant's number 2 as well. So you excited about this one?
Yeah, I loved issue one. I thought if you for you guys who don't know, it was about this group of friends who had this friend who had a disability and they like kind of got to know each other in high school. This friend ends up becoming like an Iron Man type character. He dies, and the group of friends, one of them murdered them. So it's this murder mystery that I think does disability consciousness really well. I really liked it, and I was really hooked by that first issue. So I hope issue two is just as good.
Yeah, absolutely. I liked it as well. So definitely I had no idea what to expect going into that book. And then I was surprised on that first issue. So let's hope that the second issue continues the momentum and it doesn't suffer from that, you know, that second issue like downfall, right?
I hope not, because we have seen that many times with
Yeah,
some really great
absolutely.
first
Yeah.
issues.
Okay, so number 2, let's see. You have Zatanna Bring Down the House. This is issue 5. This
It's
is
the
the
last issue.
conclusion. Yep, conclusion
Mhm.
to this. So, you excited to see how this wraps up?
Yeah, this has been a really solid series. I think it's Mariko at her best. I wish more comics could be like this, just really character driven, and honestly, good twists and turns with her dad. So I've been really loving this series, and if you haven't checked it out, this is something that's actually very new reader friendly for people who don't know much about Zatanna.
Yeah, absolutely. So my number 3 and Brant's actual number 2 is Void Rivals. This is issue
Mhm.
13. This is actually the beginning of a new story arc, and then we're introduced to a character that it was from G.I. Joe, and her name is Pythona. And this just blows my mind because I have no idea how this character actually is here in the Void Rival or the Energon universe. So that definitely, I'm sure, piques my interest and Brant's issue interest as well. And then my number 2 is actually Grommets. This is issue 5. So Rick Remender continues to write this story about these skater kids, and it's kind of cool because they're having a party probably at the kid's house last we read, and it looks like these like jocks are gonna like crash this party. So I'm excited to see what happens in that. So really cool stuff. All right, and then your number 1 is Absolute Wonder Woman issue 1. So that's that one's written by Kelly Thompson, and it's highly anticipated for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about Absolute Batman later, like we mentioned, to kind of get our opinions. But I mean, a spoiler alert, I really liked it. I was really pleasantly surprised by Absolute Batman. Again, we'll get to the nitty gritty of that. So Kelly Thompson is like this warrior Wonder Woman. I'm really fascinated to see where it's gonna go.
Yeah, absolutely. Infamous Mike Manhattan said, "Did you guys talk about the Radiant Black finale?"
That's
And
the one book I didn't read because
yeah,
it's a little bit with the 2 issues, it becomes a little bit of a challenge to read if I'm being honest. So I didn't end up reading that one. I'm on the fence if I'm going to continue the series if I'm being honest, just because again there's so many books. But I know Brant really likes Radiant Black.
yeah, and I actually dropped it because of this whole war, and this is something that I thought I was going to really enjoy, but then with the 2 issues, and then I felt like it took a long time for him to come out, kind of took me out of the story. I liked it better when they weren't in the war. I liked it
100%, I
that
agree.
much better, you know. So,
I like it
but
when it
yeah,
is a character story. Yeah.
yeah, it kind of reminded me of like Invincible in some way, you know, and that's what I was hoping for, and it still could be that way. I don't know, but um, yeah, it's just one of those things. But going back to this, Brant and I's number 1 most anticipated is Rook Exodus. This is issue 6. This is a face off against Urshaw and Rook. And this is something that a lot of the fans of the book have been looking forward to. The artwork here by Jason Fabok is going to be absolutely amazing. I can only imagine the artwork that's going to be in this issue. This book delivers each and every month it comes out. This is like in my top 5 of the year. So I am so excited for this, and I'm sure Brant agrees with me on this particular book.
All right. So I
So
think
yeah,
that's all the most anticipated.
when you get
Mhm.
that trade paperback for grommets, I guarantee you'll breeze through that thing in about 20 minutes because you're not going to want to put that thing down. It's such a fun book. It's so well written.
And yeah, and it's easy to read too. I agree.
Yeah,
It's a great slice of
yeah,
life.
absolutely. All right, so there are our most anticipated. Now we're going to go into the whole, most of the news this week is all New York Comic Con news. So we're going to go into that now.
Yes. Before I jump in, I do have a Kickstarter going on, so I am gonna share the screen and show you guys that. So Like Fallout Daughter, if you guys like superhero books, it's returning. We did the whole origin story with like Fallout Daughter, and for you guys to let you know what it's about a high school girl. Father left her to become a full-time superhero. Everyone in the world loves him except for her. and then she inherits his abilities. So in the story, the origin story is that her mom is a villain, works for the KGB, and is like a killer. And her dad dies because of the KGB, and Casey kills somebody along the way. So we get to see her kind of torn between her mom and her dad. A, that she has to take over her dad's mantle, and then B, this idea of like, am I a villain? Am I a bad person? So this whole arc is about the grief of her father, and also figuring out, is she like her mother? So it's a really fun arc. If you love superheroes, I think you're gonna really enjoy this one. Some really great artwork as well from Tango. So if you like kind of Batman the Anime series, I would say it's a similar style to that. Really proud of this one. We also have a recap. So if you haven't read any of the other issues, it's a really easy jumping on point. It's an actual jumping on point. So go check that out. Really, really happy with that book. So want as many people to be able to read it. I'm going to put the link in the comments. All right, let's get into the news here. So there's not a lot of media news. We have dynamic duo anime movie. I just think it's interesting that we're finally getting like a Robins movie. I like the Robins, so I don't feel like DC's done enough with them. So I'm excited about that. So that's my quick talk about that, because that's kind of old news. And then next up is the Henry Cavill, who's gonna be in a Voltron movie. You and Brant want to talk about that. Brant's not here.
There's not much to discuss. I mean, obviously, yeah, he's gonna be in a Voltron thing, but Henry Cavill's in a lot of stuff, man.
Sure.
And now he's gonna be in Voltron too. So is this a live action thing?
I think so, yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's kind of wild, though. I mean, I'll definitely be on board just to check it out for sure. If it's live action, for sure, I would want to see that.
Also, we have a comment from Infamous Mike Manhattan. Did you hear that Local Man's going on hiatus? I think we've all dropped Local Man, sadly. It just kind of went a different direction than I expected. But sorry for everyone who's still reading it. I know, I like the creative team. It's just kind of lost me. Let's get into some news here. So let's look at the new Spider-Man suit. This is again a little older news, but let's see. I'm sharing my screen. This is the first look of the suit, which doesn't look too practical.
I mean, it's very much Doctor Strange, obviously, and then it's silver, and so. Yeah, I mean it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen with this version of Spider-Man and this story that is going to happen. Listen, I think this is something a little bit quite different than what we've been getting from, as of late. So anything that's connected to Doctor Doom and whatnot, I think is going to be probably a fun read. I don't think you can take this one too seriously, I would think. I think this is just one of those stories that's going to go on for a little while. Have fun with it, enjoy it, and then we'll see who the next creative team is for Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, let's get into the next thing, which is new Spawn titles. There's a lot of new Spawn titles. I don't know if you wanted to talk about a few of them.
I looked at this when we
when you first I could try breaking it down. So
here, I have them on my screen here.
Okay, go ahead.
So I know I'm looking at my other computer. I know No Home Here. Then there's, this one doesn't even have a title on it. Then there's Medieval Spawn, which is coming out in January. And then there is Spawn 77. So that's quite interesting. And then what else is here? What else is it labeled? So, and then there's Spawn issue 360. Yeah. Then Spawn Dark Ages, and that one's done by Liam Sharp. And so, yeah. And then Medieval Spawn is done by Rory McConneville and Marco Atrii. I don't know how to say that name. Anyway, listen, there's a lot of Spawn now all of a sudden. I mean, we got a ton of Spawn books. So I think it's going to be one of those things where try them out, see what you like, and you read what you read. And if not, if you don't like it, you don't like it, right? I mean, that's all you can do at this point. At least there might be something for somebody out there. So I think we're getting She Spawn too as well.
Yeah, from
Yeah,
Gail
we
Simone, I
are.
think.
Yeah, if I go further down on that page, we're getting her as well. So that's kind of cool too. So yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing some of these, and I'll try them out and see if they're any good.
Joe goes back to Spider-Man. So are we in the Beyond era of the run till we get a new creative team? Yeah, pretty much. That's what's going on with Spider-Man, is that we don't really have the main writer yet, it seems like. So
Correct. Yeah.
all right, moving on to Turtles. So Juan Ferreira is going to be the new regular artist on TMNT. So of course, that beginning arc, we had like Cliff Chang and all these, bigger artists. So now it's like, no, we're going to steady down and get one main artist.
That's good. I like that. It's like it builds some consistency in the book. I don't like when books constantly change the artist on there. I think it's very frustrating. Even like nothing for nothing. Like I know I'm not the biggest fan of John Romita Jr. We can both admit to that. But in all reality, if you have an artist that is on your book, right, you would think, okay, this is going to be the artist that's on my book. And this kind of goes for Incredible Hulk as well. Nick Klein is advertised as the artist, right? Literally, like every 2 issues, the guy does not do a couple of issues,
Sure.
And I just feel like, man, if you are the advertised artist, then you need to do the whole book. Otherwise, advertise the secondary artist as well. I think that would be important. Then you can, let people know what their expectations are going forward. You can't just say, oh yeah, we got, Philip Kennedy Johnson written Incredible Hulk, and then you got Nick Klein as your artist, and then 2 issues later, he's got his fill-in artist in there. That just, to me, that doesn't make sense. It's kind of misleading to me. So
Yeah.
I'm happy for Turtles to have that regular artist. Let's hope they do every single issue, right?
We can hope. I don't disagree. I do wish if you could kind of have like a tag team in that regard.
Well, I mean, when you go back to like indie books for like Invincible, Walking Dead,
it's like 2 main artists.
Saga, right? It's the same artist all the way through,
Let's go into the next thing here, which is okay. We could talk about Absolute Batman with this. Absolute Batman issue 1. It is their cover sells for $70,000, like the original art. Which I mean, there's a lot of buzz around it, so I could see that with the OGR. 70 is a lot, but I could see why it's getting the buzz. And again, we didn't get to talk about the issue, but I really liked it. I was pleasantly surprised because I didn't really know what to expect, but I really liked how modern it was. I liked the twists and turns of who Alfred was and that his mom was still alive, the mass shooting aspect of it all. I thought it was a really cool first issue.
Yeah, I thought Absolute Batman was really good. I can't believe it was $70,000. It's promotional art. That's what it is. So
I think it's promotional art. I thought it was his original art or whatever. It's the cover, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So I think that's kind of cool. Hey man, I guess it's worth what people pay for it, right? So if it's 70,000, then it's 70,000. I think that's pretty cool. But overall, yeah, Absolute Batman is I think a hit. I think people really enjoyed it. There's a second printing coming out. I don't know if that's this week or not. It's a different cover. But if you haven't read it, but I don't know who hasn't, I think you should read it. I think it's good. I think it's a good Elseworlds type of story, and hopefully they continue to make it different, and I think that's what makes it unique.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the other Spider-Mans. All right, moving on. Absolute Batman was great. I think it showed too much in the issue 1 other than give us a chance to wander through the first arc. We'll see. Maybe they'll reveal even more stuff. That way it's like, oh, wait, there's actually even more they're going to dig through.
Exactly.
Next up is Lucky Devils is coming into Image. This has to do with 8 billion genies. I know you really like that title.
Yeah, it's the same creative team. So you can expect probably a similar vibe, I would think, when it comes to that comic book. So I'll definitely check it out. I know they've been already taking like pre-orders on certain like special issues of this on Charles Soule's website. So if you want like a special edition of this book, you might want to go on there now before it sells out. But I think this could be a pretty fun series. So if you liked 8 billion genies, again, you can expect something of that nature.
Next up, we got DC webcomics are coming. You know, DC's tried this before. Obviously, they have their webtoon as well. And I think it's interesting to see what type of books they had. Nightwing, Raven, I think Harley. I think those fit for their scroll format. I'd be curious to see how popular they are, because again, I don't know how popular Marvel ones are. So, but obviously Marvel's still doing them, so I guess it's for an audience. So I hope it's successful. But I also think they're already on webtoons, so I don't really know why they had to do it. But if you're trying to catch a new audience and you get it, then that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, moving on to Spider-Boy to introduce Hulkette. So I know they just introduced or they're going to introduce the Spider-Girl character.
I think it's this
I don't remember.
week.
Okay, because I'm buying that issue. I'm like, I know I didn't read it yet, so I don't know when it comes out.
So now now it's Hulkette, and I think all these younger characters have to do with that new Champions book. So I think that's why they're introducing them. I'm trying to remember. There was something significant about the article, and now I can't remember it. But I guess you're going to find out like her origin story or something like that in this comic, or where she comes from. I don't know, but I mean, it's intriguing. I know they're trying to make Spider-Boy, this
big thing
comic or Dan Slott's trying to make Spider-Boy this like relevant comic to where everyone should read it by introducing more characters and things like that, which is cool. I mean, listen, I like Spider-Boy. I think it's a well-written book. I think it's fun. I think it is creative. I like how there's different characters coming out. It's its own story. It doesn't rely on Spider-Man to sell the book. So yeah, I think it's all right for me.
Infamous Mike Mahan says, have you heard about Rick Remender and the artist for Outcast have a new book called The Seasons? It's a 4 teenage girls fighting evil circus. Sounds fun. I like the art from Outcast, so I'll check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, moving on. Yeah, I think it sounds up our alley. Moving on to, I think one of the bigger news pieces is the IDW new logo. So I'm going to show the new logo. It looks different for sure. Here it is. Yeah, I never know how to feel about logos that change so dramatically. So this doesn't even have the W anymore.
It says, I've tried to, when I was reading the article, it says like the W is within
within it, yeah.
Within the I and the D. I guess I don't know.
It just looks like ID.
The top of the D closes the W on the right-hand side. So that is the W. Does that make sense?
I see it. It's just weird.
You see it now? Like you see and the top of the D is, so it's kind of deceiving. It like almost looks like ID, but
yeah, exactly.
Then it's stupid. I honestly don't like it. There was nothing wrong with the old logo.
Yeah, and when you go so drastically out of like your marketing, it makes it confusing for people who are just looking for your books.
Yeah, they already have problems selling books, so it's like you don't need to do that drastic of a change.
Yeah. All right, moving on to Jeremy Adams is doing Aquaman series. Hell yeah. I'm not usually an Aquaman fan, but he's been killing it on every series he writes, so I'm on board.
Yeah, so I didn't know that this news was there until this morning. And so I read it and I'm like, oh shit, now Jeremy Adams is going to make me buy an Aquaman book. And I don't read freaking Aquaman at all. and the concept art and the things like that were on it looked pretty cool too. So I was kind of excited for it. So I'm like, Jeremy Adams made me read Flash, right? And then obviously Green Lantern, who I'm a fan of anyway. But now doing Aquaman, definitely going to check that book out for sure.
No, I feel that too. I'm really excited for it. And then we have a Just League Adam project. I'm not usually a big Adam fan, but I really like Ryan Parrott's writing. So he is writing Adam, and he's collaborating with I know he's collaborating with somebody. John Ridley, who did the origin story of Amanda Waller. So
okay.
yeah, I'm in. I'm gonna check it out. I'll check out
That's
the first
cool.
issue. All right, moving on to IDW horror imprint. I thought this was really cool because of the properties they picked. So you have things like Smile and like Twilight, A Quiet Place, Sleepy Hollow. Is a cool mixture of things that are very current and obviously old school, like Twilight Zone. So I think this is a really good move for their work for hire. And obviously there's like Beneath the Trees is gonna be like part of that imprint as well.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so like Smile was one of those other movies that me and my daughter saw just recently. She saw it for the first
I
time.
hated the first one, but
Did you
I'm
really?
curious. I hated it. I don't get scared by pop-ups, so it being majority a pop-up movie did nothing for me, and I just didn't like the characters. I was also sick when I saw it. I was getting over a cold, so I feel like I was like falling asleep as well. So may I have to give it
Maybe that's
another
why.
shot, but I hated it.
It wasn't really the jump scares that I felt that made it a fun movie for me to watch. I just liked just kind of like the creepiness of it. Just like I liked how insane she was actually going. I think that's what I liked about it. Like the mental side of it, because she is a therapist, right? And then she's going through it, and so psychologically she's like literally losing it. Like I thought that was what made the movie for me, you know. So but I can understand though if you're sick and you're like all groggy and everything, like I could
Yeah.
tell like it could be annoying for you. Yeah, I want to see
I'm
the
interested
second
to see.
one.
Me too. The second one, because there's like a concert or something like that.
Yeah,
There's some like
it's
interesting vibe to
something
it. I'm like, oh,
weird.
that seems interesting.
Yep.
Didn't like the movie,
But
but loved the advertising. I agree. The advertising was cool for that movie.
But anything that has horror, like there's certain books out there, like I'll probably try them. I don't know if I'll go out of my way in the long term to buy them, you know. But if there's something there that has Beneath the Trees and another volume of it, like I'll definitely pick that up for sure.
Anyone see Megalopolis? I heard of it. I
Mega,
heard it was weird.
huh?
It's a
Really?
horror movie, and it's supposed to be like New York geography. I don't know. I've heard of it. I haven't seen it, but I heard it's bad. But like kind of a fun bad. So maybe one of these days I'll watch it. But I have a couple of movies I gotta catch up with before I do. I didn't even see the Joker yet. And I don't know if I want
Dude, I
it.
heard so many bad things about that movie. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Like
I didn't
it's
like
got
the
the
first
worst
one, so can't
ratings.
imagine
I
it being
still
good.
never saw the first one. And now like when people dogging on the second as bad as they are, that's rough, man.
Nah, I'm not into it. Joe says, "What genre do you least like?" Mine's magic. Too weird. I really don't like fantasy. I'm really not a fantasy fan.
Me, I'm not a magic guy either. I really certain fantasy things can intrigue me, but sometimes it can take me out of it too. But magic is a big thing for me because I
Yeah.
feel magic is like solves everything, you know, or even time travel. Time travel is another thing. Like, I can't stand it so much. Like, it's just like, hey, we got a problem. Let's fix it. Time travel. Let's go back in time. Let's do it. You
Yeah.
know?
I think sci-fi in general is also another one where I'm just like, but I've had to choose between sci-fi and fantasy. I think I like sci-fi a little bit more because I think there's opportunities for it to be grounded.
Right.
But I genuinely just like, I don't like D&D type stuff. That's just not my thing. I just kind
Right.
of goes over my head. Um, all right, let's go into, well, there's a comment here. I want Sentinels to be a 4-star book, and all that out of Ash's titles do very well. I did not like Sentinels. I was not a fan of that book.
Oh yeah, we talked about it. I did. I liked it actually. I thought it was interesting just seeing a different side of things, how they're like military
Mhm.
and how they have these implants put in them and all that different stuff there. And just kind of them in a way being used, you know. So I like that part of it.
Um, Moving on to Comixology expands original titles. I think that's cool. It's been a while since we know where Comixology was going to land with that. I don't know if they still have their Dark Horse deal to also get into print, but yeah, good for them.
Yeah, same. I mean, if you get your own titles on your platform, I think that's great. It gives people another place to go to read comic books. And at the end of the day, I think that's what we want. We want that. So even though it's like a comicsology thing, I don't think it's a bad thing.
What are your thoughts on Magic being a foil of Superman in the way of a weakness? Um, I think some stories do it well and some stories do it in a boring way. So the latest one was Zatanna. I thought was pretty
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's weird. To me, it's weird. It's just like, hey, how can we stop Superman? Let's throw magic at him.
Yeah, I don't think
It's fucking
it's used very
Superman.
often either.
He's one of the most powerful beings. And all of a sudden, we're going to throw a little magic spell on him, and it's going to.
Hmm.
Why don't you magically create kryptonite and kill him? Why hasn't that been a thing yet? Has it? I don't know. But you could, right? You could. You could find kryptonite and kill Superman. I don't know. But yeah, it's like you could literally think of and conjure something up with magic, and then there you go. That's how you stop Superman. And I don't like that. That's just me though.
No, I feel neutral on it, but like I said, I think it depends on the comic. Um, Marvel announces Rise of the Emperor of Doom, which I think we kind of already knew was happening, but now it's
Yeah.
official that it's happening, and it's because of the movie. You know,
Yeah.
that's all you gotta
And
say.
you just kind of get to see that story of him becoming Emperor Doom. So I think that's cool. I mean, listen, I know we haven't had very much Doctor Doom in a few years. So now you're going to get a lot of Doctor Doom, but it's cool. I think Doom as a character, I feel like he is, if he's written right, he's very, very good character.
We answered half of this question already, but there's another layer to it. But Monotone Guy said, "How did people get advanced copies of the absolute titles?" We talked about the comic shops, but there are a few people that also just get it from DC. Like they give advanced copies, so that's another way some of the people get it. But like if it's just a normal reader, they're most likely just getting it from their comic shop. In a way that they shouldn't have been getting it. Again, not the customer's fault. Sometimes just the shop's fault. Ultimate Wolverine's coming out. I'm curious about this because X-Men is so different. I don't know what to expect with this.
So this book has nothing to do with Ultimate X-Men. This
And that's
book
so weird to me.
so this book has to do with the Maker. The Maker is the one that is controlling what's it called? Him, Magic, and Colossus are creating Ultimate Wolverine. Okay. So he is going to be this what's with my freaking
more
mark?
of an experiment.
He's going to be like Winter Soldier. He is a mix between like Winter Soldier and Wolverine. And so he's going to be part of their army to stop obviously the Ultimates. So and it's going to be introduced to in a one shot type of special, like a Ultimates Year One special. So it's going to be introduced there, and then he's going to come out with his regular ongoing series. So that's what this story is about. So yeah, he's definitely like a Winter Soldier character. He has the Winter Soldier mask. He's got the star on his actual outfit. things like that. So that's what's going on there.
I'm definitely interested in reading it. I'll check out any of the Ultimate titles. I won't maybe keep them on my pull list, but I'll check them out.
Yeah, for sure. It looks pretty badass, though. It really does.
Next up, Doom Academy. That's just their Strange Academy. So we're now seeing Doom Academy.
Yeah, I mean, so Doom is going to be in charge. So if we can get this the Strange Academy kids in some kind of comic, I'm on board for that. I truly am, because I do miss those kids, and I feel like there needs to be some type of series with those kids all the time. You know what I'm saying? So
they're pretty consistent with it too. So for the most part, we get a lot of Strange Academy. Yeah. I'm glad it's been successful for them. All right, moving on to Eddie Brock, who's becoming Carnage. I've been following Eddie's story for a long time, since like Donny Cates, which Donny Cates was at New York Comic Con, so hopefully that's a good sign.
Oh, good.
We'll get some Donny Cates soon. But yeah, I haven't been following it. So I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing for his character, but from the outside looking in, I don't care.
So this all obviously has to stem out of Venom War, because it looks like Eddie is no longer going to be part of the Venom symbiote. Somebody else is taking over the Venom symbiote. I don't know who that is yet. If people do know, don't tell us in the comment section below, because it would be a spoiler. So he's completely changing.
When does Venomverse end? Venom War?
I don't know. Soon, I guess.
Soon.
Right. So, but I don't know what's going on. Like, I've been reading Carnage, and I don't know exactly what's happening there. Like how Cletus goes away to the point where now like Eddie takes it over. And I just find that very odd to me, because it's like Cletus, even though like the Carnage symbiote, yes, is still part of, Eddie Brock at the end of the day, because it is his spawn, but he's never been the host like of the Carnage symbiote. So it's kind of weird. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. And he's got to somehow control the serialistic aspects of the symbiote. So I don't know. It'll be weird. It'll be weird to see that. I don't know what to really think, but here we got a couple of comments here. So Venom War ends late November.
Okay.
So
we'll see answers then. Next up is Peacemaker is getting a comic. So this is for the wait, because obviously James Gunn's been busy. So he's a consultant on it. The writer of this book is Tim Seeley. We got Mitch Gerards, who's doing the art, which I believe is the artist who did Miss Miracle, which I really like. Yeah, I'm interested. Vigilante's not been the person I like the most from Peacemaker, but anything that gives us more from that show, I'm excited about.
That's cool. I mean, listen, I think that's really awesome. I still haven't checked out any of that stuff. So that's cool that they're, coming out with it. I don't know if I will ever get a chance to check out Peacemaker, but I'm glad.
I think at this point, if it's been this long, maybe season 2, but I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm happy that they're coming out with something to kind of keep the ball rolling here on that.
Yeah, I think they had to. Is this DCU or DC Comics? I mean, it's DC Comics publishing it, but I'm guessing it's going to connect to the TV show a bit more than the version of the DC Comics character. Let's see. What is a superhero property that debuted on TV that you'd like to see as a comic? I don't know. Heroes, but it's been a comic. I feel like most of them have become comics in some shape or form if they were a superhero property. I mean, look at Power Rangers. Even them have become comics.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, it's like, yeah, Transformers, you got Voltron, when you look at all the stuff that has come out, like it's all been a comic book, I would think, at this point in time. I mean, yeah, it's hard to come up with it. That is a difficult question for sure. Thank you for asking, though. Sorry we don't have an answer.
And Ben 10's becoming a comic, so there you go. Someone mentioned Ben 10, but that is gonna be a Dynamite comic, and has been a comic in the past. So this is a teaser, but Spider-Verse versus Venomverse. I don't care about it. I'm so done with the Spider-Verse things, but if you've been
It
enjoying
doesn't
it, that's
stop
cool.
though. Like every time you think like this is it, this is going to be the end. Like you had Spider Society, right? And then you had got the Venom War, and then you got the Venomverse, and then you got the death of the Venomverse, and it's like, bro, just stop it. Like we don't need all of this every single 6 months at this point. And now you've done Spider-Man, you've done Venom, like why can't we just have the normal ones and just tell the right stories from them? It's so frustrating. It's so overdone. Like it's fine in the beginning, right? But when you do it all the time, it just gets so old.
Yeah, no, I'm Spider-Verse out, and was Venomverse out before it was even announced. Keeps making them money, so why would they stop? No, I don't disagree. If people are buying it, it's not for us, but I'm sure it's for someone. Is this an event? They better not kill off Spider-Boy. I don't think they're gonna kill off Spider-Boy. Um,
Hopefully they'll all kill each other except maybe some few remaining ones, and then we'll be done with them.
we can only hope. We do have a couple more news pieces here. So, Old Man Daredevil is a thing. I think Charles Soule is working on it. I haven't
Yeah.
followed the Old Man's. You follow the Old Man stuff a bit more.
Yeah. I mean, there was like what Old Man Hawkeye, and then we had Old Man, was it Guardians of the Galaxy or something like that a
I
while
think
back?
Guardians.
You know, there was a few of them, and most of them have been written pretty well. So I'll definitely check this one out as well. I think Daredevil could be a good one. It will be interesting though because Old Man Hawkeye was blind, right? So now you
Right.
got Daredevil who's also blind in this one, and he's going to be older. So I don't know, man. I am very curious, but yeah, the Old Man stuff has been pretty solid for the most part.
Next up is Vertigo is returning. I mean, who doesn't see that coming? Of course, that's gonna return at some point. Good for DC. I hope there's some great titles there. I'll pick up anything that interests me.
Do you know I never read DC Vertigo in the past? Like,
Oh,
I
ever.
think when
Interesting.
I got into comics again in 2007 or 8, I think that imprint just was ending because they came out with the new 52, right? So isn't that like when the Vertigo
Um,
stopped?
I think Vertigo ended in 2019, but I think they had a lot of titles that were like continuous. So like American Vampire is a great example. That's a book
Oh,
that's just been
was
going
it?
on forever.
But I
Yeah,
never
so
bought Vertigo books though.
yeah, I think I ended in 2019. So it wasn't that long ago.
Okay. That's weird. I don't know why there was never any titles then that interest me.
I think again, I think it's just because they were so long running. Like Fables was a book that was part of that. That was such a long
True.
running title that it's
That's
harder to
right.
jump into them.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Yeah, I just never. Yeah, then it's like 100 bullets, and then it said, "What's the difference between that and Black Label?" So when I read from the article, Black Label is also still continuing.
Yeah, I think Black Label is going to focus more on the DC properties, so like the Zatanna and Constantine or whatever, and then the Vertigo books are going to be more creator owned books. So like
Yeah.
your Nice House on the Lakes or American
Mhm.
Vampire.
Right. That's why they're coming out with a Nice House on the Lake, like special edition, or Nice House by the
Yeah.
Sea, or whatever it is. Yeah. So
So last thing, this is more DC news. Zdarsky is leaving Batman, which I think we kind of saw the writing on the wall with that. And we have, I don't know if I read this correctly. The Hush 2 sequel with Jim Lee is going to continue in that series, but only that arc. And then there's going to be another Batman creative team. I might have read that wrong. I think I know they're doing a Hush 2, which I don't have too many opinions. Didn't they have another Hush? It's Hush,
I,
right? I think it's Hush that they're doing a sequel for. But I thought
I
they already
don't
had
know.
a
I
Hush 2
all as I know is that I knew that Jeb Loeb and Jim Lee were taking over the Bat title.
for that.
But that's all I knew about it. And I know Chip Zdarsky was leaving, and I know that that I think his last issue's in February. Um, and they delayed it. You know what I'm saying? So they
Sure.
kind of slowed down the releases so Jim Lee can make sure that he has his issues in the can. So they're not delayed. Kind of like how, remember Superman Unchained, how
Oh
delayed
man,
that
yeah.
was. So now they're going to make sure that his stuff is complete, since he has so much responsibility as being in charge of in charge
DC.
of DC basically. And listen, I think this will definitely get people on board to buy more Batman. I think Batman always sells regardless, but I still think the numbers have dropped. And I think that if you get Jim Lee on the book and Jeb Loeb for one of the most popular stories that came out, that creative team, whether it is a Hush 2 or not, I think it's just going to sell like freaking gangbusters, especially
No,
when you release all those variant covers and all that other stuff.
and the trade, I think it'll do really well as a collection because Hush did really well as a collection. Again, does it excite me personally? No, I'm not like a huge fan of Hush. But I'm interested to see where Batman goes. I think it's needed a spark for a really long time. And then again, maybe that's just absolute Batman, like Ultimate Spider-Man's been that for Marvel. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Zdarsky leaving. I feel like he had more to say, but I also feel like he never had time to say it because there was a lot of like a lot of in and outs. It's a shame because I feel like it's a run that had a lot of potential that just didn't
Yeah,
really
I
catch
think
fire.
obviously his run got kind of, you know, overshadowed by the Absolute Power event. I think he
Hmm.
had to come up with a story to help lead into that event, and the failsafe character was it. So he didn't have the time to tell the story he wanted to tell, and now he's finally getting that chance to kind of tell it, and now he's getting kicked off the book. So it really sucks for him. You know what I'm saying? So and it's kind of weird because they did come out with Absolute Batman, and that is the book where you would think, not like people are like, oh, Absolute Batman, this is something different. So does that kind of take the sales a little bit out of Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb's up and coming
It
run?
could.
Right? I mean, I don't know. So we'll see what happens.
That's, believe it or not, all the news. It was a lot of New York Comic Con news, as you could tell. Next week, hopefully, we're back in motion. I'm getting a lot of books tomorrow, as we were talking about.
Yeah.
There'll, I'm sure, be a lot to talk about. Obviously, after Wonder Woman. Yeah, so excited about that. Hopefully, we'll have Bran on too, and we'll kind of get back in the motions. I will be gone for 2 weeks in November, but then after that, I'll be settled with my schedule.
Yeah, and yeah, hopefully we will get back on course here. Definitely, we're happy to be on tonight.
Mhm.
Even still with Brant not being able here and Kat not feeling well and me being exhausted from my weekend, we wanted to bring you the show for sure, guys. So again, sorry we missed the past couple of weeks, but hopefully, yes, we will be on next week with all three of us. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, supporting the channel, supporting the show. You guys are great. Thank you for all your comments and your questions. And we love you guys. So as always, make sure you, give this video a thumbs up or before you leave, and make sure you subscribe to the Comic Book Weekly YouTube channel and Comic Book Corner 2.0 and Kat's channel, Comic Uno, as she does a weekly rundown with her comic books as well. And we'll see you guys all next week. So thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful evening. Sleep well, and have a great new comic book day tomorrow.